Well, welcome back to the Social World podcast. Thoughts on the social world if you're going through Google or whatever. And it's a very great pleasure to have your company back again. It's been an up and down summer a little bit, but we're back and we're fully loaded and we're all ready to go. And I've got a friend of the podcast back again who's got some amazing new things to tell us all about. Christina Gabbitas, who's a writer, and she's going to talk about all her work with child exploitation, both the work she's doing with children and the writing that she's doing to back it up. Welcome, Christina.
Oh, good morning, David. Thank you for having me again.
You're welcome. Now, I think the best bet is just give us a little taste for now, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes, if you like. But give us a taste just now about what your work's involved with.
Okay, so for the past year, I've been working a lot with North Yorkshire Police and different policing teams with my stories, No More Knives or County Lines and Trapped in County Lines.
Mhm.
We're both respectively commissioned by the Crime Commissioners, Humberside Police and Crime Commissioner and North Yorkshire Police Fire and Crime Commissioner. So
Mhm.
basically the work that we're doing with North Yorkshire Police over the past year, we've been visiting secondary schools with my story Trapped in County Lines that sees the characters once again groomed and exploited into county lines. So basically, the idea is we're going to schools to get them to understand all that encompasses county lines. So the debt bondage, the cuckooing, all that's associated, with it, and the terminology, getting children and young people to understand all that encompasses it, what it means. So we're doing a lot of visits into schools, and the work itself is very impactful. I'm a big believer in the power of storytelling for getting these messages across. I think children and adults alike are more likely to remember things. It makes it more memorable.
Well, you've proved that that's a very powerful medium, is the books that you've written or the graphic novels, as it were. But listen, just a couple of things first. In case somebody listening doesn't understand, could you just quickly explain cuckooing to them?
So cuckooing is when someone's house is taken over. So basically, in the story Trapped in County Lines, the house is taken over, and that's where they deal all the drugs from. So basically, the house gets taken over, and they start to distribute drugs from that house, and they take the house over. In the Trapped in County Lines story, Luke's house is taken over,
Hmm.
um, and
Oh,
quite innocently from his point of view. And then he gets into the debt bondage as well, and goes missing at the end. So yeah.
all right. That's good. Thanks. I just thought, in case people didn't understand the word or the context of that just now. So tell us a little bit about then your work with the schools and what a normal visit to a school under this situation would involve.
Okay, well, within secondary schools, obviously there's a large number of pupils, so we do engage with a year group at a time. It's different in primaries, which is better because we can go into the classrooms
Yeah.
and spend time with year sixes. But so we stage kind of an assembly. I introduce myself and we introduce ourselves working together, the different policing team,
Hmm.
and they're working together to educate them on the topic and what to look out for. So they're shown the animation. I give them a background to my writing, my career, and then we show them the animation, and then we have conversations about it after. We open up conversations, lots of questions to get them to understand, what it means when someone's grooming, those that are actually in some schools could be involved, and encouraging them to speak up and to let them know who they can actually turn to, and we know that it's happening. So we have helped to safeguard some young people in schools. I
Well,
think
you've
in
been
North
in more than
Yorkshire,
400 schools, haven't you?
oh gosh, I mean in North Yorkshire alone, we've visited over 30,000 students we've got to in the past year. So I think whilst we're not going to be able to help everybody, I think getting that message out there, the idea is to get the message out to young people, teachers, and all in our communities, is getting everybody to understand that this is happening, not to brush it under the carpet, talk about it, get it out there because it's happening in every area and it can happen to any child. And I hear so many horrific stories that I'm really passionate about it. I mean, my children are 25 and 26 now. I feel fortunate that they're not at school.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
it's really important to educate. So yeah, so basically when we go in there, we get them to understand that this is reality. The thing is with secondary schools, I can be kind of brutally honest. Look, this does happen. This is happening.
So you've got to be
And
age appropriate in order to get the message
of
out.
course, yeah, very, very age appropriate. But it's evident that it's needed because in one particular school, this was a year nine,
Mhm.
and year nine said to me, and this is on my TikTok. If you go to my
What
TikTok,
age would year nine be, just for anybody abroad not listening?
oh, year nine, oh gosh, 12, 12 or
12. Okay.
13.
Okay.
Yeah, 12, 13. So to get them kind of, so basically I interview them, and if you go over to my TikTok channel, you'll be able to see all these conversations because I interview teachers and children about the topic. And one girl said to me, she said, before you came in today, all I knew was to not take drugs. So she had no education about what was going on,
Mm.
and that makes them vulnerable. And then the another young girl said that she realized that she didn't realize that once they deliver the drugs, they would get trapped and caught up as they did, and how they must be feeling. So it's hugely evident that this intervention is needed in schools. We've got a captive audience there, and not enough is being done. So that makes them quite vulnerable to my mind. And the area that they're in, it's happening in every area.
I know. Given the exploitation of children up and down the country that we all know about and that your work highlights as well, I mean, it's not surprising the massive scale of this. And I was just wondering, do you ever get much from the police in terms of feedback, in terms of data, in terms of your impact?
Oh
Or
gosh, yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
I think working together, we're trying to measure out that impact together as well. But yeah, I think working together is really important because the police do an amazing job and they're there to uphold the law, and they do an amazing job, but they need our help as well, and communities. We all need to work together to help tackle this. Yeah, through yeah, have some statistics in reduction in certain areas, but also with the children, young people themselves is the writing element. Is getting them to, because it is a story and they're watching the animation. I do that for reasons. So the story is written in graphic comic strip style to engage any reader.
Mm.
And so those who may struggle with attention or not prolific readers, but also having it in the animation format, you're getting to everybody. And so the animations are cut down to about, kind of 12 to 15 minutes. We have a window of concentration, not just for young people, but for the general population, for grabbing attention. Um, and it's a creative and an effective way of getting them to understand again what the cuckooing is and the debt bondage. So again, within the story, Luke is 13 years old. He's taken a bait from some vapes, and he's agreed to deliver these vapes, and then they get him to agree to deliver some cannabis, and then harder drugs, and then what he ends up agreeing to is having all the drugs delivered to his home. His mum's away, and he's being looked after by a 24-year-old member of the family. So they then, bring all the drugs into the house and take the house over. So the
Right.
cuckooing side of
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
then he becomes, because if he's robbed, so he's robbed on his way to school. Obviously, the organised criminals have set this up, and that's what they do. They've set him up to be robbed on his way to school with a bag of cannabis. So
Mm.
then he becomes indebted to them. He doesn't know this is a setup. He thinks that somebody's genuinely robbed him, and now he owes that money to the criminals, and so he thinks he's in debt. And so again, at the end of the story, he goes missing because he does not know what to do with
Well,
himself.
let's pause that just slightly there because I know you've got another book in the making that will begin to develop Luke's story. Is that right?
It's in the offing, yeah. So then there will be another sequel coming, and that will be entitled Missing.
Mm.
So this is a missing story. Children are going missing every day, and
Mm.
sometimes the reason is because of the debt bondage, because of getting embroiled in the county lines.
No, it's
And
brilliant
it's
that you're doing
uh,
this. I think it's brilliant that you're doing this. Look, can I just, before you go on and before we talk about, there's a few things I want to ask you, but do you feel that there's ever like a bonus, if you like, because it's not just the children, the staff at schools must listen to you, obviously, as well. And you think that them being more aware of things will help in future in terms of when youngsters want to talk about stuff, that there are now more informed staff in schools that are able to be that listening ear.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. I know they've been into some schools where we're helping the teachers, we're helping to educate the teachers. The teachers do an amazing job. They've got so many hats to wear. So it's difficult for them to know and talk about every topic. So I think us going into the schools, educating the children, we're educating the teachers, we're helping the teachers as well. So it helps them when we've left, those conversations are then opened up. And so, yes, it hugely helps. And also the policing team that I'm with, more recently North Yorkshire Police, is that when they go, so they regularly visit the schools. That's why it's really, I think it's paramount that all schools have a link to a policing team, a school liaison team, neighbourhood policing teams. It really is paramount, and I think that more is needed to be done in that area, because I know not all areas have that. As one in a different area said to me, they don't have a luxury of a school liaison team. Well, to my mind, it's not a luxury; it's an absolute necessity, and that's money well spent, to my mind. And one thing I have realised as a member of the public going in and working with the police, I realise how hard they do work and how much work they are doing, and how much care is taken into the projects, like just working together. And I think they do an amazing job. And to my mind, they're fantastic. So I think that the more that we can do to work together to get this message across, the better. Because again, because I get calls from all over the UK about children being caught up and organised crime groups taking over old cheap council properties to use as drug dens, kids being set on fire, the whole shebang.
I know. And I know that you're being very inventive too, because the obvious thing is you can't clone yourself. So you can't be, go to everything that you're asked to do, or get involved with every police force that you may well wish to be. But you're being very inventive as well, if I might say, because I know, let's take something else that I know you've been heavily involved with over the years, and that's children's literature festivals and poetry. And you decided to combine the two, didn't you?
Well, basically, with obviously Children's Literature Festivals is a small charity that I founded. I have 3 other trustees. And we concentrate on areas of deprivation, and it's predominantly aimed at primary, but I'm bringing more secondary into that. So going back to the writing and the poetry, so because I hear so many horrific stories, I decided there's not enough education out there. So I set up a national initiative, and this was born out of, I visited a school in Harrogate, Rossett High, with North Yorkshire Police. And as a result of us going into that school together, one of the students wrote a poem called Blades of Silence and sent it to North Yorkshire Police, who then in turn sent it to me saying, oh, are there any competitions we can enter this poem into, because it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I can't think of any big, but over the years, I've held initiatives and I could probably set one up. So I did. So I set about it. I did this voluntarily I put an extra page onto the Trapped in County Lines website. So I set about getting young people aged 12 to 21 to write about all that encompasses county lines, to get them to, and I did this to try and educate, because I was realising that they're not educated enough, but also for those who are perhaps caught up in it, it gave them an opportunity to write as well. And I have to say, it's the most successful writing initiative I've ever organised, and I've organised quite a few.
Well, you had hundreds of entries, didn't you?
Oh yeah, from all over the UK. And what was really brilliant is that Catch-22 charity took it on board really well, and they worked as mentors for some of the applications that came in. So everybody that sent in a poem had to have a mentor or a teacher for the submission, or otherwise I wouldn't accept it, because if a child or a young person sent me a poem and I didn't know where they were, there would be no way of safeguarding them if there was a problem. So they all had to have a mentor. But I can just say that there's going to be between 50 and 60 of the best poems and songs, so there's lyrics as well. And there were some brilliant submissions from Catch 22. And I'm really looking forward to sharing those poems of lived experience as well. I think that's really important. I think one of the poems starts, you get up in the morning, there's nothing in the fridge. Everybody should read this book. So this poetry book that will be...
Yeah, when's it coming out?
It's going to be coming out on UNESCO's World Poetry Day, which is the 21st of March, 2025.
Right.
So it's going to be out and available then. So all of the published authors within that will get a free copy. And then there will be any sales from, excuse me, any sales from any further copies when any proceeds after costs will be given to NSPCC Childline.
Because you're on the NSPCC Council, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a member of the council. They're very supportive of the work, and Tracy Holsworth, the chief social worker, is very supportive of the initiative I ran, because I'm a big believer in giving children a voice, and that's what it's all about. We need to listen. So the book is called Listen Up, and that was inspired by another one of the songs that's been written in there by a young lady called Baber Stokes from Millthorpe School in York. So it's been illustrated by a 22-year-old Alicia Abbott, who's from Hull, who's now studying at the London University of Arts. She's in her third year, so she's actually designed the front cover. All my work is, I do lots of research. I collaborate with young people. All the voices on the animations for the stories are voiced by young people. I'm a big believer in giving children a voice, and that's what it's all about. And this book is going to be absolutely amazing. I think everybody should read it. It will be available across bookstores once it's published.
Right. Look, I tell you what then. I mean, let's put a marker down, and if it's all right with you, around and about launch time, let's pop another podcast out with all the details and some of the examples on it. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Thank
All
you.
right. I mean, because I think it's something that does need good publicity. And I think people should realize that you're not exactly raking money in yourself from this. It's all quite voluntary in the main. You just get any expenses you have to cover, is what I understand. Is that right?
It is from the book, yeah. Obviously, when I go into schools with the policing teams, I have to be paid because I have to earn money. So I do get paid for going into schools. But the book it's a labour of love, really. I feel so passionate about it. But I'm also the YMCA in Lincolnshire have put something towards the book, and I'm still looking for sponsorship for that as well. From any other organisations. I'm talking to a few different people at the moment. It's just for the raw cost of the printing. I've dedicated my time to it. So I just wanted to tell you about another campaign that I've just started, actually.
Go on then.
Just
You're really so you're full of campaigns. I don't know when you find the time, but please go on.
There's so much more to be done to help educate on this topic and get this message out. So from last week, I worked with a company called Averta, who put visuals onto buses. So basically, I've got a strapline on a school bus, with both of the book jackets and book your author visit. So that's going to be on that bus for a whole year. That bus is going to be travelling through different villages and towns. So there's an article that came out yesterday, the National Police Chiefs Council, about county lines and that they're becoming more localised. There were fewer running outside boundaries and fewer children recorded by police as involved in any capacity. However, children are still massively at risk. So this fits well with that, because this bus is going to go from York to Boroughbridge to Pocklington, all the different schools so about 25 different locations. So this bus is going to be travelling on the roads. I think people don't, more people are going to see something on a bus than they are on the TV or radio.
No, that sounds a great idea.
Visual driving about. So this is to help get this message out. I said to the company, out into the communities, I want to raise awareness of the county lines exploitation and all that surrounds it and associated knife crime. So that's going to be on that bus for a whole year. So 12 months, it's going to be driving about, people are going to see it and they're going to wonder, oh, what's that? And they'll start to think, well, what's that all about? And then look into it a little bit more. I think it just complements the work that I'm doing with North Yorkshire Police to tackle this problem. It's awful. And I don't think communities realise to the extent that it's happening. And I think if we can the more that we can do to get it out into the public domain, to get people to realise, the more that they can look out for kids and the more that children can be warned against it, and to help them stop them from actually being groomed and exploited. I know I spoke to one county line's mum whose son, excuse me, whose son was groomed and exploited. Now, even he said if he'd have had some intervention in school, he may not have been groomed. He may not be in the place he is now. And she's been both of them have been a big supporter of my work. Obviously, he's to remain anonymous, but she has spoken out in support of the project and thinks it's really, really quite necessary.
Can I just ask you to pause at that point and just develop that point slightly before I forget, because I was wondering about support for families of children who've been involved in this or who are discovering that their child is involved in this. How to best deal with their child, how to best support them, how to best go along with authorities or whoever in actually kind of, if you like, making the problem sort of much more manageable with the child. I mean, are there projects you're aware of to do with the families of these children?
Well, I think that's not my remit. That's not something I'm
No,
involved.
I just wondered if you were
But I
involved.
think, yeah, there are organisations. I know North Yorkshire Police are working with St Giles Trust a lot. So there are organisations in each of those areas that have been set up, and that is being worked on as well. So I know that support is there, and that support is to be improved, and I think is being looked at as we speak.
That's good.
So,
I just
yeah.
wondered because anybody that sees the bus, obviously, if a child sees your adverts on the bus and things like that, that's a good thing. But also, if adults or families see it, and if family members hear that their child's had this discussion at school or this presentation from yourself and the police at school, they might well be asking, well, okay, but how can we get involved?
Oh,
How
right,
can we
okay.
help?
So I mean, so yeah, the policing teams are there to be heard,
That's good.
they listen. Like the schools, so you've got a lot of the schools, most schools have a brilliant pastoral care. So they're related to that team, the safeguarding teams within the schools, they're there. They weren't there when I was younger. And the connection with the school's liaisons teams or the neighbourhood policing teams with the school, they're all there to chat to about it. If anybody wants to know any more, if anybody wants to email me, I'm happy to chat to people. I do anyway. But yeah, that support is there from an education point of view, most definitely, if they're concerned about anything.
Well, the link to your website is going to be with all the other links and information on the front page of this podcast that, people can see when they access it. So, I mean, I think that's something to remind people that, and if there's anything else, Christina, that you want to draw people's attention to in the meantime, we'll try and put it on that front page so that there's a definite link available for people. But let me just ask you one thing that just occurred to me there. When you were younger, this didn't really occur to you as work, as a way of life, as a calling, as a whatever. It's interesting how people get into things, isn't it? Because it was, if I remember meeting with you, and we've known each other for years, it was something that sort of gradually impacted on your life, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the approach in 2019 came from Humberside Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, because that came off the back of a story that I'd written called Share Some Secrets, that encourages children to speak up about abuse, and which is aimed at primary age children. That is one of the best-selling titles of the NSPCC online shop, and I donate some proceeds to Childline. So that's where the ask came from. I when I'm not really a Harry Potter person. When I was at school, right from primary, I always wanted to know what was going on in the world of factual information. So that I'm more aligned to write that way as well. What I will say, and I will add, and I forgot to add earlier, is that both the No More Knives or County Lines and Trapped in County Lines are now in the NSPCC online shop. I've donated 200, the first 200 copies. All the proceeds are going to NSPCC Childline. So they've just been actually uploaded this past couple of weeks to say that that's where they can be, that's where they're available to buy. But also the animations are freely available online to watch for both stories. Look out for the missing story coming sometime in the next year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
other side of it is
yeah.
that the NSPCC, the link to them, I hope, is going to be on the front page, and the link to your own website is going to be on the front page too, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's there too. But people, I think, with these stories, with the safeguarding stories, I think the NSPCC is the go-to place because it's been validated by them. They're a believer in what is written. They're a believer in my work. So a lot of teachers, educationalists will go to their site. So I think it's it's the best place for them to be. Yes, I do have my own website, but the best will in world, people tend to go to Amazon and the like. But go to the NSPCC site, anybody, for these books, because it helps them to raise funds for a much needed cause. Oh, and the other thing is I'm doing my 4th marathon for Childline in April.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And the bonus is, and presumably, it keeps you fit too.
Oh, yes. Yes, it does.
All right. Well, look, let me ask you a question. When you were at school, okay,
Mhm.
did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams that you would need something like Venn diagrams in your life, if you ever remember that? I mean, because that's what's coming to my mind. Because I've got, as you know, on the podcast, we specialize in safeguarding issues and
Mhm.
talk to people all around the world. And some of the things we've been doing recently, and people who follow my podcast will know that, were to do with human trafficking and modern day slavery, etc. And there is quite an overlap between what you're doing and that. And I mean, it's irrefutable that there are children who go missing, as you said, some for the debt issues, the blackmail issues, and so forth, but others literally because they're kidnapped
I
or
know.
they're taken away and they're sold or they're whatever. I mean, and that happens in Britain too quite a lot. And people just are beginning to wake up more and more to this. And some of the anti-slavery charities, the big one in the UK is called Unseen.
Mhm.
And I've been reviewing a couple of their book authors on this, and another one will be going out soon. But I just wondered if you come across much of that overlap, or you're just so busy with your own particular.
No, there is an overlap. It's modern slavery, it's modern day slavery, isn't it? The county lines model.
Mm.
Um, you know, the sexual exploitation as well. There definitely is a crossover because they could be kidnapped to do the very operation that we're talking about. So there is an overlap, and it would be good to speak to other charities. Obviously, doing my research, I will be speaking to missing people and any other charity that is willing to help with my research. But I have got quite a poignant story to tell. But yeah, no, as a child at school, I never thought I'd be writing at all. I was very quiet and shy. I was like a mute at school. I was a bit of a misfit, really. Um, right up until leaving secondary school. So I always say that to children when I go in as well. There's lots of opportunities out there, and you never know where those might take you. Try lots of different things. But
Well,
yeah,
that's good. It's very, very good for an empathetic response to some pupils that will be feeling exactly as you did.
yeah, and I say that to them. Yeah, so you maybe think you are the quiet and shy ones who you're scared to speak, because I was scared to speak. I was just so painfully shy. Nobody believes me, but that's how I was. So I gave myself my own CBT to get a bit more chatty.
Okay. All right. Well, look, just finally, I think let's kind of give you the opportunity for a minute or two to just, if you'd like, to give a message. Imagine you're standing in front of a group of children at the moment. I mean, what sort of messages do you want people to actually hear? What do you feel resonates most? I know it's got to be truthful. I know it's got to be believable, and I know it's got to be understandable. But at the same time, you've also got to be empowering, haven't you? You've got to actually give people permission to dive into what is a very harrowing subject.
Yeah, I think to, parents, carers, people out in the communities who are going to be listening to this, I don't think that your child is safe. I don't want to sound like I'm being negative, but I think just educate, as much education as you give your children, as much education about the world around them as you possibly can. Don't ignore it, even the online stuff. I know it's really hard to police the online stuff, but do what you can to try and protect your children from harm. And I think it's really difficult because I speak to some people who've never heard of what's going on, county lines, the whole, everything that's associated with it, the associated crime, is it speaks to them about it. And the more that we can empower our children, young people, the better chance they have. Listen to children as well. Listen to children and young people. Give them a voice. Don't dismiss them out of hand. Look for signs. I always say to the children in schools, look for signs of your friends being a bit withdrawn or not being themselves. Talk to them. It's just talk. Keep talking and listen to children, young people, and give them a voice. We've all been that age. It's a difficult age to be. So we need to make them feel as comfortable as possible. So yeah, give children a voice.
Okay. Christina Gabbitas, thank you again for sharing things with us, and look forward to March when not only the poetry will be published, but maybe you'll have more information about Listen Up, I believe, which is your next publication in the series.
Yes. And the missing story and another project that I've got brewing in the background. I shall tell more about that later.
Okay. Well, look, you're very welcome, and thanks ever so much for the time today.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.